Hi, everyone, and welcome to Polishing Your Gradebook, another Wednesday webinar with us here in the ITRC. My name is Ryan, and joining me today are Rick Fowler, Mark Cooper, Kimberly Tompkinson, and Paul Lynch. So today we'll be talking about ways to polish your gradebook. As a preview of coming attractions, we'll soon be talking about before teaching, things you can do during teaching, things you can do after teaching. And should you have any questions, we'll have a time for questions and answers. And then we'll also wrap up with ways you can learn more from us here at the ITRC. And first up, Mark will tell us more about things you can do before actually beginning teaching.
Thank you, Ryan. Before beginning teaching as it relates to your grade book, you want to focus on transparency and consistency. And this coincides with the Quality Matters rubric, 7th edition, mainly specific review standards 3.2, which focuses on the grading policy and that it should be stated clearly, available at the beginning of the course and consistent throughout. And 3.3, which is specific and descriptive criteria are provided for the evaluation of learners' work, and their connection to the grading policy is clearly explained. So these best practices do coincide with those two review standards. Starting off is your syllabus should match your gradebook. And this ensures consistency between the syllabus components and the gradebook items and categories. Then we want to specify the types of activities that will be graded in the course. And this provides clarity on the expectations for each of the graded activities, which hits on our transparency focus. With total point allocation, it's defined, you want to define the category points and total points available for each of the graded activities. And this ensures transparency so that students understand the weightage for each of the activities in relation to their grade. And then the overall grade calculation explains how individual scores will be combined to calculate the overall grade. And the utilization of the gradebook feature figures aggregation methods. And finally, with regards to letter grades and the grade policies, you want to establish the relationship between letter grades, percentages, and points, and clearly illustrate this in your syllabus so that students know how they're being evaluated. And then communicate policies such as late work and any deductions that you would have in communication protocols. And this kind of coincides with specific review standard 1.3, which states that communication guidelines in your course are stated clearly. And then consider incorporating things like extra credit or implementing a strategy for any like assignments that you would drop from the grade. And it's all about creating transparency and consistency in your course when you're just starting out teaching. Next, Rick is going to talk about some best practices to do while you're teaching your course.
Thanks, Mark. So we're going to discuss a few things that you can do while you're teaching your course over the course of the semester. First one is keep up with your grading. And this is going to help students keep track of their progress. I know that, like most of us, you might be a procrastinator and want to put stuff off, but that just causes issues, trust me. This also helps students keep track. Like I said, they can know where they're at in the course, what their grade is, and what they need to improve, where they can improve in the course. If you also have assessments that build upon each other, as you grade those, they can know that they need to focus on different aspects coming up in the next time the assessment happens. So that helps the students learn also. Communicate any changes. And what we mean by this is that any changes you make to your syllabus while you're going along, or if you change scores, anything like that, please communicate those with your students. You can send an announcement, you can send an email. Just makes things clear for students to know what's going on. If you're making any changes in your grade book that are drastic, it helps students know that it's not something on their end, it's something you're working on, and it make their life a lot more sane. Enter 0 grades where and when appropriate. Because empty grades don't count against students in the gradebook, you want to make sure that when they get a 0 on an item, on an assessment, that you enter a 0 grade. Otherwise, students might think they might see their grade higher throughout the semester than it really is. One example we had of this was an instructor who waited until the end of the semester to enter in all of his 0 grades. And students all thought throughout the semester they had much higher scores than they did. A few were actually flunking the class when they thought they had high Bs. Try to avoid that situation. Watch for inconsistencies in the gradebook. If you're watching throughout the semester and you're looking at grades, you can see we say to monitor high, middle, and low students. So you can look at that and say, oh, this student's getting high grades across everything, and make sure that their final grade is corresponding to that. They're getting a high score in the class. Same with middle and low students. If you find students or their scores for the end of the course are not matching up with what it should probably be, you can let us know and we can help you work through that issue. And finally, reach out to the ITRC if you have any surprises or questions. If you need to change anything, if you've been grading and accidentally messed something up, you graded it out of 100 points, but actually should have been 25 points, you can let us know and we can help you get that fixed. Next, we're going to have Kim talk about what you can do after you're done teaching the semester.
Thanks, Rick. So after you conclude the teaching semester, there are some items that you will probably want to check and double check before you submit final grades. So one thing that instructors often do is accept late work, even if it's for a penalty. So if you do that, if that's one of your practices, you'll want to make sure that you update the grades for those items as needed when you've graded those and students have completed all of their requirements. Then the next thing to do, just as Rick mentioned, it's important to monitor your grade book as you teach and to put those zeros in as you go. But it's a good idea to check at the very end to make sure that all of those blank grades have been added, have had zeros entered in or the appropriate grade. And then it's another good practice to look at final grades for students and to spot check students, just as Rick talked about the low, middle, and high students, to make sure that those grades are calculating as you expect them to. And this is often where you may find errors in your gradebook calculations that you can fix before it's too late. And then make a note of the things that you would like to change for the next time you teach the course so that you're prepared to teach when the semester begins and you're not rushing to try to make those changes the first week of the class. And so it's another good practice to take down notes of things as you teach for what you want to change so that you remember what those things are when the course is at its end. And then finally, the last step is to enter your final grades for your students in My ISU. And then enjoy your summer break. So up next, we're going to have Paul entertain any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you, Kim. Thank you for participating in today's Wednesday webinar session. If you're eager to delve deeper into this topic or explore other exciting subjects aligned with our work at the ITRC, we provide various support resources and services. First, the Tiger Tracks Knowledge Base is a library of how-tos accessible at your fingertips. We also have a library of videos and recordings similar to today's session in our ITRC Video Library YouTube channel. The ITRC supports the development of instructional materials and resources that are accessible to all. Please visit our website for more information. You're always welcome to meet with us at the ITRC. You can contact us by email at itrc@isu.edu, or you can give us a call at 208-282-5880, or our front lab is available for drop-ins. We're in room B17 in the basement of the Oboler Library. You can also schedule on-demand appointments with a full-time ITRC staff member. These appointments can be done by Zoom, can be done over the phone, or in person. Our next Wednesday webinar will be Introduction to Panopto. This webinar will provide an overview of how to use our new video hosting platform. This is scheduled for next Wednesday, April 17th at 2 p.m. Keep an eye out for that and other ITRC webinar announcements in ISU Today and the ISU events calendar. Explore the complete listing of our webinar events throughout the semester on the Wednesday webinar schedule. To access the links on this slide and the previous 2 slides, you can use the QR code located on the upper right corner of the screen. Thank you for joining us today.